While with the stakes at an all-time high, we are reminded just how great of a show Mr. Robot is, and easily one of the most daring and impressive episodes yet.
Don't change the channel, don't touch that dial. We got it all on UHF. Take off your sneakers.
Also, yes, I know that this review is up later than expected. I do apologize for that once again. But hey, next week's episode's on at a much earlier time, so maybe I'll be able to get it up quicker. I can't promise that, but I'm definitely aiming to get that one up quicker than these last two have been. Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Mr. Robot Season 4, Episode 5, Method Not Allowed, and holy shit, I mean, wow. And I know I keep saying that every single week, but this episode truly blew me away in more ways than I really was expecting it to. And I mean, look, the show always has that one episode every single season that is just so different and really does stick out. But what they were able to achieve in this episode, is truly remarkable. I have no idea how they did it as well. I don't know. I have no idea how this episode turned out as well as it did. But it is a true series high. This was easily one of the best episodes, not just of the season, but of, I think, the entire show so far. And there's definitely a lot to talk about here. Even though, yeah, there wasn't a lot going on, conversation-wise, there still was a lot to talk about here. And that just shows the kind of show that Mr. Robot really is. And we're just getting into it right now. So, obviously, yes, let's address the elephant in the room. This was, in fact, the silent episode. The rumors were, in fact, true. This episode, aside from 2 lines foregoed, any dialogue, and that alone is an achievement, but what they were able to do in this episode, I think is really well done, because aside from the gimmick, this basically was a classic episode of Mr. Robot. You had Elliot and Darlene and them trying to hack into this place and them trying to obtain this, information and things like that, and I really loved where they end up going like this. And what I especially loved about this episode is that it really did show just how strong of a relationship Darlene and Elliot really do have, because for a while it has been kind of a contentious relationship. These two, Darlene has done everything she can to provide for Elliot, but because the fact, Elliot's anxiety and all the stuff that he's been getting himself involved in, her hacking him last season, things just haven't been great for these two. This episode is really the first time these two are working together in tandem. They're achieving this goal, and it's just really great to see them breaking into virtual reality. Again, it seems like a classic setup for the show, but what they do with it, I think is really great here, because yes, we've had many sequences of Elliot breaking into places and trying to hack, but we've never had an entire episode dedicated to that. And the fact that we did here, I was really happy to see, because they really did show that this show doesn't need to do a lot to intrigue you, to make you feel riveted. All it needs to do is just have a very realistic heist scenario, and we are reminded just how great this show is at doing that. Because first, things are going great for these two. Basically Darlene creates this diversion where she, her ID's not scanning right, so that gives Elliot the chance to go in and make the decryption, and he's gonna hack into virtual reality so they can make this profile and things like that, and everything seems to be going great. And I loved us just seeing them putting these pieces together, knowing that they are short on time, knowing that they have to work as fast as they possibly can. It made sense why there wasn't any dialogue here, not just because Darlene said that they didn't have to talk, but because of the fact that they are moving so quickly, they just don't have time to do it that way. So they have to find a way to trust each other without using any dialogue. And again, I think that was a really interesting idea for the show. I love where it ended up going, but I also love just how off the rails this very quickly became, because we knew that something wasn't going to go right. It seemed like everything was going in their favor, but we knew that eventually something was going to go wrong, and I noticed it right away. Like, the second Elliot closed that door, I realized, wait, that door is not locked. That door is still open. That is something that receptionist at the bank picks up on very quickly. He's very inquisitive in that way, and I love that we had a smart person going after them, because far too often in heist movies, the reason why they're able to get away with it is because everyone else is just too dumb to notice. But that's not the case with this guy. This guy is very good at his job. He is keeping as careful watch as possible. Even though he's trying to watch Die Hard, he still was able to tell what was going on. He still could tell something's not right here. He knew the door was unlocked, but he also knew that someone had hacked into it with his information. And the second that happened, all hell pretty much breaks loose. You don't know what's going to happen here, but just the scene with like Elliot and the foot chase and things like that, and Darlene having to quickly get out of that area is probably one of the most intense things we've ever seen on this show, because we know how high the stakes are. We know how how sideways this could end up going for them, and just what this could end up potentially doing to them. Darlene already has had a criminal record. Elliot has already had a criminal record, so we know that this can't turn out well. And the moment where Elliot was being chased, I honestly thought it for a moment like maybe he was just gonna, take the fall for it. He was gonna let Darlene get away, but that's not at all what he plans to do. He gives her his location. They are able to get out of there, but oh my god, that whole sequence was just so tense. I was definitely on edge the entire time, and I just love the way that this whole thing was done, because again, you knew something was going to go down. You knew that it wasn't just going to be them successfully hacking, and I like that it almost didn't work out for them, but that really underscores what this episode is truly about, and really is just getting Darlene and Elliot back to a place where these two understand each other. These two are now working together. They've gone from two people that were quite distant, that didn't even really want to talk, to Elliot finally finally accepting an actual affection from his sister. Something as simple as just touching her hand. Again, something that Elliot would not have done, because normally he just doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to get too close to anyone. And the fact that he actually takes her hand and takes that initiative is just such a beautiful moment to see. These two are finally on a good path, but it makes me really worried that they are setting us up for something really tragic here. I am hoping that we're not going in a direction where Darlene is going to die. I hope that's not where we're headed, because it is the final season. These two are finally in a good place. I hope that things do not end with Darlene dying, because I like where her character is headed right now. She's helping out her brother, but she also is looking out for herself, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that is headed in future episodes. But like I said, this was just such a great way of upping the momentum, but again, really just showcasing just how good of a relationship these two really do have. They don't need dialogue to communicate. They don't need dialogue to understand each other. All they need is to be on the same terms to achieve this goal. They did in fact achieve it, even though it almost didn't work out for them, but they were able to do it, and it was definitely a very satisfying moment for sure, and probably one of the most intense moments of the entire show. Absolutely loved everything going on in this main plot for sure. Now, everything else going on in this episode, though, I thought was also very effective, and that was the stuff I actually was most worried about. I wasn't worried about the Ellie and Darlene stuff. I just didn't know how they were going to be able to pull this off, but through basically just having these characters talk through texting, I thought was a brilliant idea, because yeah, in a sense they are cheating, but it's not spoken dialogue. We realize that these characters are separated right now. This is all kind of leading up to that meeting. Even though, yes, Terrell was killed, that meeting is still happening. And you do actually feel Terrell's death in this episode. I like that we got at least one scene of Elliot grieving. It's small for sure, but it does show that Terrell dying has had an impact on him. And I definitely did like seeing that. But for someone like Price right now, he is very determined to make sure that this goes in his favor. He doesn't care that Terrell is dead. He knows they're organizing this meeting. He wants to see the Deus group fail, and we know how important this is to Price, especially since all that exposition and everything that he's been through. We know how much Deus has screwed him over up till now. We know how much he has been played by them. He wants to see them fail, and he knows that this is definitely going to be a struggle, especially now that Terrell's not there. It's even better for him, and I'm very excited to see the way things do play out there, and I like that he, has this suit, but I also love the moment where he's looking at E-Corp, and you just realize that this was something that meant a lot to him, and he always loved working there. He always enjoyed it, even though yes, it was controlled by White Rose. It was something that he really did like doing, and him realizing he had to give it up, it's very sad. You do feel bad for Price in that way, because besides Angela, was really the last thing that he had, and now it's just all gone. But he knows that he has to sacrifice it. He has to sacrifice it if he wants this to work out. He needs to get vengeance on his daughter. He needs to bring down this corporation, and I really did love seeing that here. But on the flip side of things, we also have a character like Dom, who really is starting to be played at this point. I mean, Dom really is at a point where, I've said it before, I mean, she's very much paranoid. She's always on high alert pretty much throughout this entire season. But now, especially, we're at a point where Dom is no longer gets to make her own decisions. I mean, throughout this whole episode, she just wants to enjoy Christmas with her family. That's all she really wants at this point. Even though she knows that she can't enjoy it, she just wants to be able to relax. But even on Christmas Day, we have, Janice still giving her this mission, still telling her directly what to do, and you see how threatening she is. And I mean, Ashlie Atkinson, oh my god, without conveying any dialogue, just her like slicing that one animal or whatever. I mean, that alone just shows just how threatening of a presence Janice really is, how much she does mean business in that way. And I mean, we've seen this before, but again, they're just doing a great job with conveying just how much of a threat she is, but also how insurmountable she really is in that way. Like, this is someone that Dom just simply can't say no to because she knows what's at stake in that way. And the way things do wrap up here is particularly tragic because, it starts off with her basically having to investigate the police department and things like that because of the Dark Army knowing that something happened with that van. They know that something did not work out with Terrell, and they know that they have in fact been played in that way. So you can tell, and again, this is just the brilliance of the show, even though White Rose is not in this episode, her spirit and her just, her tenacity and her just relentlessness really does loom throughout this entire show, but especially this particular plot line with Dom. I mean, you can just tell how enraged White Rose really is, but I think also just how desperate she is. I mean, she has been adamant about how she needs this done on Christmas Day. She needed to appoint someone. She was gonna appoint Terrell, but now things have just gone completely sideways for her, and they're not going to make sure that things, they're not going to back down yet. They're going to make sure that this continues to go in their favor, even if it seems impossible. And so what seems like a small mission for Darlene is quickly ruined when, she's at her house, finally seems like she's going to enjoy Christmas with her family, but then Janice gives her a dreaded message that now basically her official mission is to go after Darlene and Elliot, known as these, illegal runaways, basically. That's what she needs to do. She has to capture them, and oh my god, I can't imagine how this is going to go, because we already know that she has this hatred for Darlene. She's very regretful of what happened there. She's mentioned to Darlene before she doesn't want to see her again. She kind of feels like Darlene put her in this situation. But now I am very worried for these two, because knowing that Dom has that connection with Darlene, I don't know if she's going to go through with this. I really don't know if she's going to be able to take them down. But also knowing that rage she has against Darlene, it also kind of makes me worry that maybe they'll just kill her off. And I hope to God they're not going in that direction. But oh my god, knowing this show and knowing that they've already killed off two huge characters within the first 5 episodes, I honestly wouldn't put it past them if Dom or Darlene do die in the next episode. But just knowing that she has this information now, I mean, this no longer feels like a separate thing. We always knew this was going to intertwine at some point. We always knew that Dom would come back into the foray, but I was not anticipating it to go like this. I was not anticipating it to come this quickly, but Dom knows what she signed herself up for, and unfortunately, she has to do what she's told at this point, or else she's going to risk her entire family. And just knowing that she has to pull this off is devastating in itself. But when you have someone like Dom, who's constantly just been panicking and has been terrified about this whole thing, this is just going to send her more over the edge. And I really don't know if she's going to be able to survive this. I mean, we'll just have to see what happens next week. But I'm very worried for Dom moving forward for sure. And the only other thing to talk about is Krista. We don't get a ton with her, but they did a really good job, I think, of setting up the imminent danger that she's in. Even though I'm not too fond of what's going on with her and Vera right now, I don't like the fact that Vera's coming after her. I hope there's more to it than just what it seems like. I really love the way this was set up because we had Krista in a place of security. She, was with her boyfriend and they're having this really nice conversation about how, he didn't want to go to her parents' house for Christmas and how they were going to have this nice Christmas together. And you thought everything was going to go great, but you knew that Vera was going to show up. The second that she got that text, I'm like, she's fucked. She's fucked. And any point Vera's gonna come up, there's that scene where you think he's about to attack her, but no, it's just this woman that was helping her out. But then Vera finally comes up to her and tells her that it's time to talk, and that was such a great way to end the episode. I love the way the dialogue was done, the lines of, we don't have to talk, it's okay, and then the final line being, it's time to talk, and now we finally know that we're gonna get to the stuff with Vera and Krista, and I'm dreading this for sure. I hope that it goes really well. I hope that this goes in a really good direction. But again, I'm not too fond of the subplot. I have yet to see why this has a place in this season. And I hope that the next episode gives it some more of a meaning. I want it to be more than just, like I said, Vera overcomplicating things and just being another obstacle for Elliot. Which he very well could. I mean, we still don't know what he told Darlene. We don't know what happened after he found her that one night. We don't know how that all went down. We don't know what he said to Elliot's third personality. We don't know what any of that stuff was about. So it's highly possible that there's a lot more going on here than we think. But as of right now, this is my least favorite thing going on. And even though it is, I still thought they did an excellent job building the momentum here. Gloria Reuben's performance here was just so great. You saw how happy she was, but then the second that she saw Vera, you could just tell something went off in her, and I'm very much dreading what is going to happen next week. I don't really know how that's going to go down, but I like that we at least got through this. I like that they aren't, dragging this out because it's the one thing this season, like I said, that I'm just not fully content with. I don't know if I like the idea, but even though that is the case, this episode still did an excellent job with the way it handled it, and it really isn't that much of a complaint. It's more of a complaint with this plot line and me being more worried than an actual complaint. So that's when you know the level of, quality you're dealing with here episode-wise. Now, in terms of technical stuff, I mean, where do I even begin? There was so much to love about this episode. The cinematography especially was so great here, especially the shot when they are frantically trying to leave the bank and you see them like exit outside the door, but it's not in their point of view. It's from like if someone were to show up, and I actually thought someone was going to see them. I thought that's what they were kind of setting up there. But I like that they did that because it showed just how risky what they were doing was. And Elliot's someone who's usually very cunning. He's very, he has an ability to pull this stuff off, but we also know how he hasn't been as, on top of things as of late. This is the first time in a while where he's doing something without Mr. Robot, which I also have to say, I really like seeing that. I like that this wasn't him and Mr. Robot working together because we're so used to that. It was cool to see him and Darlene working together. Mr. Robot really took a back seat in this episode. He had that one scene where they burnt Terrell's van as instructed, and then he pretty much sat out for the rest of the episode. And I actually thought that was a really good move. Again, it showed we don't need that dynamic to make this show great. All you need is a heist scene, you need to up the momentum, and you need to give it a purpose, and that's what this episode did. And that's the thing. Take away the silence of it, and this still is a great episode. And that's what I really loved about this episode. The writing here I just thought was so clever, and the way that they made all these characters, be able to convey emotion without dialogue was just remarkable. And all of the acting here was so great, whether it was the subtle shot of Price looking at E-Corp and realizing what he's let go of, or, Krista and her embracing this relationship with this guy and us feeling really happy for her and just seeing the overjoy on her face and things like that, or Darlene and Elliot, how even though they are in this chaotic situation, they feel a lot more secure with each other. I mean, just the acting here was so great, and that's something else this episode just did so well, without having that dialogue, and really just underscored how talented of an ensemble we are dealing with here, because everyone, I mean, not just Rami Malek, not just Chaikin, everyone was on their A game this episode, and that's something I will definitely give them for sure. But production-wise, like I said, it was just out of this world here. But Matt Quayle's score, man, oh my god, I mean, because of the fact that this episode had so little dialogue, he really went all out here, and I've praised him a lot recently, but this episode is easily some of his best work to date, whether it's the chase scene or just the whole any scene involving the bank. I mean, he just did such an incredible job this episode, and I really loved what ended up going on here. Score-wise, I thought the editing here was also just excellent. Just everything going on this episode. It's just a reminder of why I love this show as much as I do. Like I said, stripping away all of the bare essentials, stripping away Mr. Robot, stripping away dialogue, and this show is yet still able to be incredibly riveting and so much more tension-filled than most shows on TV, honestly, and I don't know how they were able to pull this off as much as they were. This is the kind of episode that shows normally fail at, but this show excelled so well and pulled off such an incredible episode here that really is taking the show in a very interesting direction. Because like I said, we're now at a point where Darlene and Elliot are on good terms. I really hope this does not mean that something bad's going to happen to Darlene next week, even though Dom now has this information. I hope that something ends up happening. I hope that there's some way where Dom can live and Darlene can live, but I don't think that's going to happen. Because again, we already know that Dom has been ordered to perform this task, and if she doesn't, her family members are going to die. And if she doesn't kill Darlene, then things are just going to get worse for her. We also know what Janice is fully capable of, but we also know that she has this rage against Darlene, so she could end up acting out there. Darlene reacting to Dom, I don't really know how that's going to go either, especially since Darlene's in a good place now. You know, she's just gotten over Angela's death. She's kind of accepting it. Like, it's something that she's kind of been forced to accept in that way, and she's on good terms with her brother, and she's had this, you know, this enlightening encounter with, you know, Santa Claus last week and things like that. This is not the thing that she needs right now, and I can't imagine what this is going to do with her. As far as the board meeting, which I'm assuming we're finally going to see next week, I have no idea how this is going to go. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch for sure. And then, of course, everything with Vera and Krista. I just hope they give this more of a purpose. I really do. I hope it's not just what I think it's going to be, that Vera's just another element here to overcomplicate things. But as I've been told, you know, as I've said to people before, I mean, there are things in Mr. Robot that I just didn't think were going to work at all. Joanna's death last season, for example, is a good, you know, perfect example of that. I didn't think that her death had much of a purpose, and then they gave it a purpose in the later half. So that could very much end up happening this season. But either way, this was definitely a series high for Mr. Robot for sure. It showed why it is one of the most intense and riveting shows on TV. It's definitely one of the best episodes of the entire show, and I'm absolutely going to give Mr. Robot Season 4, Episode 5, Method Not Allowed overall in A+. Honestly, it's insane to me how much they have delivered in these first 5 episodes, and knowing that we still have 8 to go, I just can't imagine what we're in for. I really can't, because we're still in only the first half of the season. There's still a lot more to go here, and I have no idea where they're going here, but I am so excited, but also terrified to see where we end up going moving forward, and I just can't believe they have been this consistent quality-wise. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because it's Mr. Robot, but I think that this half of the season especially has just been incredible, and I really hope that this is not the peak. I don't think it's going to be, but I can't imagine how things are going to be moving forward. So overall, guys, my review of this episode of Mr. Robot. Let me know what you guys saw this episode overall. Left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.